La 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 la. Hello, Gareth here. So I live in Japan and it's now the rainy season here, and it's also very humid, and sometimes the sun comes out like a blowtorch, so it's pretty uncomfortable and intense weather. But one of the positive things is these amazing skies that we get. They really are sensational, and I want to show you in this video how to paint a really dramatic and sensational sky. So I'm doing this on Saunders and Waterford paper, but any good quality watercolor paper will do. I'm also doing big size. This is 45 by 53 centimeters or 20 by 18 inches. And you don't have to use big size paper, but if you do, remember to use big brushes. So I'll only say that once, but it is really important. Okay, and this painting is just two washes. One is the sky and the other one is the buildings and the trees below. Okay, and this video is at double speed. So here we go. So my paper is slightly tilted. I put it on a tissue box and I'm using a big hake and I'm just wetting the paper. Now I don't saturate the paper, I just wet it. Now I'm using a mop brush and this is pure yellow. I use a lot of pure colours when I do skies, and I'm doing just 3 streaks of yellow. That's it, finished. Now I'm adding some yellow ochre to that, and I'm just covering a lot of the paper with yellow ochre now, but I leave some whites in the middle where the sunlight is, but I try not to leave white paper anywhere else. Now I'm using Brilliant Orange, and back to yellow ochre, and I'm spraying to keep it all wet and workable. So I'm back to using my big hake. A flat brush is also fine, and Brilliant Orange. So I've just got white paper in the middle. So now I'm using a slightly smaller hake, yellow ochre, but it's thick this time, and I'm doing thick streaks of yellow ochre across the paper, and I'm using some tissue to get back some of those whites that I lost. Now I'm adding Brilliant Orange with a bit of yellow ochre and doing some lovely streaks across the paper. And I hate these little white bits around the edges, so I try to get rid of them. And just re-emphasize those yellow streaks. And I just took a hair out there and it left a patch, and I just went over that one more time to hide it. Now I've got alizarin crimson here, phthalo blue and burnt sienna, and now I'm going for the dark areas. I spray the paper again to keep it wet, and I'm trying to get the right colour here, so take time mixing your paint to get the right mix, don't rush that. And then I'm doing lovely sweeping strokes here that really look like beautiful cloud shapes, but you'll notice it's a bit patchy, so I'm going to go over this area again and try and get rid of all those patches. There we go, because I don't want that. And then do some more streaks. and then do a streak on the other side so it's a bit more balanced. And I'm just trying to cover it all up evenly so it's not patchy. And now I'm using pure burnt sienna, and I find that looks really nice around these light areas. My paper's dried there, so I'm getting a bit of a dry brush effect. I also found that burnt sienna was a bit too dark, so I had to mix it a bit with yellow ochre, and then it was perfect. And I think I'm using the mop brush there to do that with. So doing this is really going to improve your brushwork. And the sky is dry now, and next I'm going to do the buildings and the trees at the bottom. So first the trees, I'm going to mix a dark green using burnt sienna, that's burnt sienna, and phthalo blue. I like phthalo blue because it's such a powerful blue and it helps you make darks very quickly. So I'm using a big bamboo brush, and I'm doing slightly flicky strokes that give me a dry brush effect. That's so important. So you have to really watch the way I'm doing those strokes and copy that, and then you'll get the same effect. It might be a good idea to do it on scrap paper first. And now I'm doing the trunk going down. You don't want to overdo that. If you can, just get it done in one go. And then just doing some detail on the top of that trunk. That took quite a bit of time to do. And then this is a small bamboo brush, and I realized that the top of this tree was not big enough. So I had to redo it and really make it, extend it out far more, which took a bit of courage actually. There we go. I make some of the same mix, and now I'm doing another tree, a different tree, and it was really important to get those edges right at the top, and then after that slowly it becomes more like a dry brush effect. So getting the shape of that tree is really important. And I'm making the same mix again, and then doing another tree on the left hand side. One thing I did that you might not see is I kind of twisted the brush in the palette. I pressed it against the palette and I twisted the brush, and that gives me splayed hairs, and that gives me the rough edge for that tree on the left hand side. So it's very important to remember that. Okay, now I'm doing the buildings. I'm using phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, and a touch of burnt sienna or burnt umber, just a touch. And so I like to do these with a kind of dry brush effect because it looks more interesting. If you look at the top of that building, you can see a little bit of the underneath, the under part of the painting showing through, and it just looks far more exciting and interesting. I keep spraying it to keep the whole thing workable, and then I use my dark mix again for the bottom of the tree. And there we go with some more buildings, and I'm trying to leave little white gaps because it just looks more interesting. And now here I'm using just pure burnt umber because it's going to blend with the other colours and not look so strong once it's dried, but it will add some variety to this wash. And then I'm doing the green again, phthalo blue and burnt sienna. Oh, not yet, but in a minute. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm using the blue and the alizarin crimson, a liner brush, and I'm just doing some little details to the top of these buildings to make them look more exciting. And a bit more here. Can you see how that just makes them look more interesting? Spray it again to keep it workable. And now here I'm using a dark mix for branches on the tree. So I'm using a liner brush. So this is basically just phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, and then a brown, burnt sienna or burnt umber. And I'm also doing a little bit more of a rough edge on that tree. And I'm making the same dark mix again. And now I'm doing utility poles using my liner brush. Nice clean strokes, and then power lines going across, and then these supporting poles here, and then I'm just emphasizing the trunk again, or restating it, because it seemed to disappear too much. And then spray to keep it wet and workable. And then I'm just darkening the bottom of that tree using the same mix. Okay, so now I'm using some burnt sienna and phthalo blue, so I'm making a green, and this is where I'm adding some more bushes, and it just makes this wash look a lot more interesting. Okay, phthalo blue and alizarin crimson and some brown, and I'm doing these windows, just some simple lines. That's all it is. It just adds interest once again. And using the same dark mix, I'm going to paint some birds, because we've got this huge space of sky and we just need to put something in there to make it a bit more interesting. And I'm using my liner brush. You can do birds with just 3 strokes, and with my liner brush just adding a few more lines. These little lines and stuff really add, I think. Okay, now I'm using a light blue and a liner brush, and I'm just doing splatter. So it once again, it's just making this wash more interesting, adding texture. And there we go. I go a bit crazy with this, but once you start to do it, you'll probably be the same, because it's just a lot of fun. And what I'm doing here is using my dark mix again, phthalo blue, alizarin crimson and a brown around the edges, because I just don't want white gaps along this edge line. I guess it's creating a dark frame by doing the dark edges. And here we go again, more splatter with the light blue. And can you see what a lovely texture it gives you? And now I'm using burnt sienna, and I'm doing splatter here in the middle. And I think I'm using a thin bamboo brush here, but liner brush, brown brush, all of them will be okay. And again, that dark edging. And there we go, finished. So I hope you enjoyed that. And now this is the most important thing. Please stop the video and have a go, or at least play the video again. But first of all, get your paint materials out and have a go. And even if you fail, just remember, every bit you do, every bit of practice you do, just makes you improve more and more. And if you keep at it and keep going, you will get there. You really, really will. It does take time. So also enjoy the process. And that's it. So please have a go. Let's create, let's have fun, and that's all. Bye for now, and happy painting. Bye.